She pulled me aside and said, Mama, for my birthday, will you pay for me to freeze my eggs? We can actually change the outcome of pregnancy with nutrition that's personalized.
Are there everyday chemicals that's going to interfere or disrupt with this fertility? Does it affect men and women in a way?
We're quite restricted in how much time we have with patients because of a pay for service model.
You hear that word cortisol level for both men and women. So today's guest is Dr. Marina Straszak Suri, and we're going to talk about fertility. Fertility for women and the natural way of doing this, a naturopathic way. But this is not just for women, this is for men as well. So if you're ready, let's get right into this after I remind you, if you are a pet owner, please be a responsible pet owner and have your pets spayed or neutered. All right, let's do it. Optimize your fertility naturally, a holistic guide to achieving a healthy pregnancy. Can you give us a little background as to why you authored this book, this guide?
So that's an interesting question, actually. I have been in practice for many years, and I do general gynecology. So I do fertility, but I also do menopause work, contraception, sexual dysfunction. I do the whole gamut. But this was sparked by my daughter's request 2 years ago when she graduated from medical school. She turned 31 shortly thereafter, and she pulled me aside and said, Mama, for my birthday, will you pay for me to freeze my eggs? Because she was starting a very busy residency in emergency medicine, and she could foresee that this wasn't going to be something she could do in the near future. And she's a little worried, like many women who are professional, who are working hard, they're deferring pregnancy. They're worried, will they be able to get pregnant when they're ready? So my first reaction, I was actually a little bit of surprised, which I probably shouldn't have been because I hear this request a lot, but it's different when it comes from your own daughter. I thought, yes, of course I will support you in this. I want grandchildren. This may be the only way I get grandchildren. I don't know. But my second thought was, well, you're heading for a very difficult, challenging residency, and you don't want to be freezing eggs when you're stressed and tired because that's going to affect their quality, which really made me think more about, well, what actually does affect egg quality and what evidence is there, and can we improve egg quality? If we can make it worse by getting stressed, can we improve it by doing other things? And what about sperm quality? So that I went into a deep dive down a rabbit hole and I did a lot of research on this topic. And really, it's out of love for my daughter, but also I have so many patients who are struggling with the same issue. And it's hard to talk to them about it because there's very little time. And I'm in Canada. So our system is we're quite restricted in how much time we have with patients because of a pay for service model. You don't have
Oh,
time to give them correct counseling. So I started thinking, well, this really should be a book. This will be the most helpful thing I can do for people.
well, and you're absolutely right by saying that women nowadays are working longer or have that professional goal, and they want to either provide for themselves or provide for the family, but also I think to get out and to, this may come across sounding wrong, but they want to contribute in
Mhm.
one way or the other. And like I
Mhm.
said, that means they're putting off having a child, having a family, whether it be a single mom or same sex, but
Mhm.
they're just putting it off longer. And
Well, I think there's also this attitude amongst young people today is that everything has to be set before you can have a baby. You have to have the house, the income. Whereas my parents' generation, they never even thought of that. So I can see what's happening in my family. My mother, who was a working woman, which was unusual in the 50s and 60s in Ottawa, where I grew up, despite the fact that she worked full time, she had 3 children by the time she was 30. So go to my generation. I went to medical school, and I specialized. I had 15 years of postgraduate education, and I had no intention of having a baby during that time. The minute I graduated, I got married the next day and got pregnant probably the same day. I'm not sure, and had my first baby, but I only managed to have 2 by the time I was 38. So now here's my daughter. She's now 33, single, going to be getting her real job next year when she graduates. But that's also a challenge. So what's waiting for her? Well, we can already see the timeline stretched.
Yes. Is there, in the average age for women, is there a healthy bracket as far as age goes for uh, their fertility and the health of the eggs?
So generally speaking, we tend to say that age 35 is already advanced maternal age. However, I do argue that point because as we know, people age differently. You can see people who are one 60-year-old who looks very old and another 60-year-old who looks very young. And a lot of that is lifestyle related. And now you can do biological testing for your biologic age as opposed to your chronological age. There's various ways of doing it. My argument is if you can keep your biology younger, you should be able to stretch that period of time in which you can conceive and have a healthy pregnancy. And I'm very into longevity medicine as well. This is my other interest for my own health, but I also put it into my practice. And a lot of the same things that you do for longevity will improve your fertility. So
Yeah,
you're getting a double whammy.
so what are some of those things? Because if we're talking about the health of the eggs, fertility, and we're talking about longevity, and like I said, they kind of go hand in hand together. Keep your body healthy, your biological age down. We have all these scales now that talk about, you stand on your scale and it's got electrodes and it's going to tell you what your biological age is.
Mhm.
And people are so concerned about that. But part of this question is there a point that we are so concerned with our health that we're doing so much that we reverse everything that we're doing health? Too many vitamins, too much running, stress on the body and all of that. So can that happen? And where's that fine
Absolutely.
line?
In medicine, I always say is the Goldilocks principle for almost everything, whether it's a measurement of a hormone or an activity, how much you eat, how much you sleep. Too little is not good, too much is not good. It's got to be just right. And that's where Goldilocks taught us medicine.
Is there um it's not defined for every person, that exact timeline, right? Is there a little bit of an individual, like maybe I don't need 9 hours of sleep for my health because I'm doing a few other things. I just need 7 versus somebody else who may need that full 9 hours. Is it that, I don't want to say is it that loose, but it's not a defined formula for every person.
Yes, I mean, we generalize and we say 8 hours of sleep. But this
Mm-hmm.
is one thing that COVID taught me that for the first time in my life, I stopped sleeping with an alarm clock when we were shut down. And I said, wow, this is going to be interesting. Now I'll see how much sleep I need. And I always knew that I needed more sleep than most people. Well, it took me, a few weeks to realize that 9.5 hours was perfect for me. And that's more than most people need, but that's my need. And I know that now and I honor that now. And it's made a big change in my health. So yes, of course, there's variation. We're all different. And that's where genetics comes into the picture.
Oh, how much should we listen to our bodies? People
Oh,
always say, "Oh, I listen to my body," or "I listen to my doctor." But should we really listen to our body?
absolutely. Our body's telling us things all the time. And for instance, not being able to get pregnant can be a signal from your body saying, I'm overwhelmed with all this other stuff I have going on. Pregnancy is not, high on my list right now. Survival is. And for
Okay.
instance, stress is typical one is high cortisol levels will affect the reproductive system. It'll shut it down because that's not something that's necessary. And it's emergency when you have high cortisol levels. You need to deal with that emergency.
You hear that word, cortisol level for both men and women. So, I mean, I think what we're talking about right now, as a general, men should be listening to this as well, not just women.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wrote this book for men and women. And I don't have, well, women are my primary practice, but
Mm.
men are half of the equation. And this has been forgotten or overlooked for very many years. But now we know it's more subtle. For instance, sperm are responsible for making the placenta, which is very important for fetal health. And now we're realizing that early miscarriages may be sperm problems from the placenta not being made properly. So it's a more subtle way, but it's still very important. So I think we should consider that it's a 50-50 proposition by men and women.
It takes two.
It takes two to tango, and you both need to know how to dance.
I want to touch also a little bit about the everyday chemicals, because we have um, so much out there as far as chemicals in our foods to try to make it better, chemicals that are coated on our utensils or silverware, things like that, that may scrape off. We have aerosols that we breathe in. We have cleaning products. Those are everyday things. How much of this should we be aware of that it might be damaging our eggs or the sperm?
Well, for instance, we know Professor Shauna Swan wrote a book called Countdown in 2017, and she alerted us to the fact that men's sperm counts have decreased by over 50% in 2 generations, and they're continuing to decrease. And the reason she believes this is the case is because of endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment. So the same is happening for women. It's a big, big factor, and it's totally ignored by conventional medicine because, well, conventional doctors are not trained in this. This is more of a naturopathic functional medicine approach to look at these chemicals as a problem and try to deal with them.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, I was going to say yes, because you are really also into holistic medicine as well. And this is, like you're saying, your upcoming book, your guide is the natural way of extending the fertility of the women, the life of the eggs
Absolutely. And the sperm.
and the sperm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have a whole chapter on endocrine disrupting chemicals and how to avoid them. And as you mentioned, they're in the air, the water, our food. But what's even more distressing is that they're in our personal care products that we slather all over our bodies, our shampoos, our body washes. And there's a ton of them. So I send all my patients to the Environmental Working Group. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
Okay, so this is a U.S. non-for-profit agency that informs people about pollution and how to try to live a healthy life despite it. So they
Okay.
offer a lot of interesting services. They have an app that you can download on your phone called the Healthy Living app, and you can scan products at the store like personal care products, cleaning products, everything. And it has a toxicity rating for them. So you can see if it's full of like high toxicity chemicals, you can substitute for something less toxic. And then slowly you clean up your environment. So that's one thing I really recommend.
Okay.
Pesticides are endocrine disrupting chemicals. And of course, our foods are full of pesticides. So the ideal thing would be to eat organic. It's an expensive option. So they do a list every year. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Does that sound
Other than
familiar?
the movie Dirty Dozen, no, I have
No,
not.
not the movie. So the Dirty Dozen are the dozen fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticides. They publish this list every year because it changes a little bit. So those are the ones you really want to buy organic. The Clean 15 have less pesticides, and you can get away with buying non-organic. Now,
I've to say thank you first for letting us know this, because that is, I think, really important and helpful. And I'm sorry for interrupting.
so yeah, I mean, my contention is we all are surrounded by these chemicals, but we have to know how we can limit our exposure to them. We can't completely not be exposed because we wouldn't be able to live. They're everywhere. They also have guides on how to buy air filters and water filters, and good quality ones. Something that they do in the United States, and I'm so sad that we don't have this in Canada because it's an American agency, is you can look up by your postal code in the US, anywhere in the US, what is in the municipal water supply. So my daughter actually moved to New Jersey a few years ago, and I looked up the tap water database, and I was horrified to see that there were 13 contaminants in her water that were at higher levels than they should be. And they were things like chloroform which used to be used as an anesthetic agent. I don't think it is anymore. I don't know what it's doing in the water. Another one was hexavalent chromium, which I don't know if you remember the Aaron Brockovich case years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what was contaminating that place, and they had to shut that town completely. They just razed it to the ground because of contamination. Well, there was another chemical that I used to burn warts in the office, and it was in the water. So I quickly ordered a reverse osmosis countertop filter and had it sent to her house. And then the next thing I did is I ordered a good HEPA filter for where she sleeps, because the air is full of particles as well that are affecting us. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. And, a couple things with kind of joking, but not, is what do you say, the hexa, whatever it is, but chloroform. Is that why I get sleepy when I drink our tap water? But what's scary, we were talking about this, is the topical stuff, the lotions, because those have different types of metals and other chemicals, right? And we are rubbing it in our skin. And when you do that, it doesn't stay on top of your skin. It gets absorbed into your body, which can have, sounds like, damage your organs, damage your
Mhm.
your skin, and affect your sperm and fertility possibly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what do we do?
We
What does this guide of yours, what is it going to help us really find out?
So basically, when it comes to those chemicals, I tell both men and women, have a good quality air filter, good quality water filter, scan your products, start buying cleaner products, and know, start to get knowledgeable. You can read labels and see there's certain things. There is the Environmental Working Group also has list of the 8 most common endocrine disrupting chemicals. So these are chemicals that act like hormones in our body. And you may have heard of, the fact that fish are being found with both sexes, that male frogs are turning into female frogs, all from chemical exposure. So these things are happening to animals and to us as well. So we need to learn more about it to learn how to avoid it, because we can't stop it. It's gone past that.
Well, funny thing that you say that about asexual frogs. I mean, when you first said that study where the male sperm count has been going down 50% over the past couple of generations, the first thing I thought of is exactly what you're saying. It's for whatever we're doing, men are becoming less of a man. I don't know how else to put it, and that may sound bad to some people, but our hormone levels are changing.
Absolutely. Testosterone levels are getting low in young men.
Yeah.
It's and younger men are having problems with erectile dysfunction, which was never an issue before. I'm convinced it's the chemicals in the environment. I haven't heard any other alternative explanation for it. And it makes total sense, because most of those chemicals have an estrogen-like function. And this is why we're seeing women with more breast cancer, more endometriosis, more polycystic ovaries, fibroids, polyps. And those things are affecting fertility.
Well, the big thing that I had heard in the last couple of years, plastic. We hear all these things about microplastics and plastics, and some studies they say there's not much that's going to make a difference. Others say, well, it's already in your brain and it's growing. The more plastic you have, you're going to have it all over your body. So
Yes.
how true is this?
This is true. They found plastic in the brain, in testicles, in ovaries, and it's not just the plastic. It's in the plastic. There's chemicals like bisphenol A or BPA. You've probably heard of. So
Yes.
they banned BPA a number of years ago. But what chemical companies are smart at doing is that they make a slight variation to the chemical so that it still does whatever function they want, whether it's softened plastic, hardened plastic, or whatever. And one is banned, but the other one is a variant, is not banned. Well, it turns out that BPF, I believe, is even worse than BPA, but it's still not banned because the EPA doesn't have time to catch up with all this. There's like 80,000 chemicals out there and they just keep spewing more. There's no time to regulate them.
It's, I mean, this is scary. I'm thinking back, I'm old enough to remember back in the early 70s and living in a different country with DDT
Mhm.
and with fish and things like that. And then they banned that. Um, I'll say this could be as bad as uh, the military, the people in the military with Agent Orange.
Yes.
It's chemical, and it can have an effect, I think, either immediate, or it might put off whatever the effects of the chemical is having on your body, right?
Have transgenerational effects, which is really scary. I've been to Vietnam and I've seen the kids who have been exposed to Agent Orange, and a lot of them are extremely talented. They actually teach them how to do embroidery and beautiful arts and crafts. But it's terribly sad what
Yeah.
what that war left behind. Crazy.
Well, and this is not just a US problem or a Canadian problem. It's a worldwide problem as far as the fertility and all these chemicals that are found in our everyday products. And I know it's something so big that it's going to be so difficult to tackle because it means change, and different regulations from different countries work differently and at different speeds. It's almost uh, I might be way off in thinking this, but it almost seems like a third world country would have it better off as far as the chemical kind
No,
of.
actually,
Okay.
I don't think that's
Thank you.
true. The worst air in the world is in India and Pakistan. It's
In there.
it's the most polluted.
Yeah.
Um, but and Europe actually is much better than North America at banning chemicals. Like I think the US has only banned 9 chemicals over the years. The European Union has banned over 2,000, and they also
9.
9. Yeah, that's it. So in the European Union, they also don't have GMO products. The problem with GMO is that genetically modified, they're genetically modified to withstand pesticides. So they're full of pesticides. So, it's being genetically modified. Yes, we don't know the full repercussions, but then when you pack them with pesticides, that's definitely not good for you. So I think in Europe, they're ahead of us in many ways. Mind you,
Yeah.
their fertility rates are even lower than in North America. Countries like Italy, their fertility rates started decreasing back in the 70s. And it wasn't really recognized. Japan as well started decreasing in the 70s. And it's thought that there's a fascinating documentary if you're interested in this. It's called
Yeah.
Birth Gap. It's at birthgap.org. Stephen Shaw is a documentary filmmaker, but he's also like a data scientist. And he got interested in the topic of fertility and has gone around the world interviewing different people about it and about the implications and about the reasons. And he coined the term birth gap, which is the gap in the population that's going to exist because of the decrease in the fertility rate. And he's made these maps from around the world showing what's happened over the years as the fertility rate has decreased in their populations. And Japan and Italy are, well, actually, the worst in the world is South Korea. They have the lowest fertility rate in the world.
Really? Well, they don't have much room, but
They don't have much room. But interesting thing that I just read about is that Japan is now have a program for Indians to come to train to look after their elderly, because Japan has so many elderly people, and so they need to import help. So they
yeah.
are funding this program.
There's Boy, we're talking about a wide variety of stuff, but they're all related. So I want to make sure that people do not forget why we're here.
Yeah, we're getting
And
off topic.
that, well, I enjoy this conversation that we're having because I think it ties together and it's important. But I just want people to keep in the back of their minds that you have a book. that's coming
Hmm.
out in the beginning of 2026. So if you could let us know again the name of the title of the book.
So, optimize your fertility naturally, a holistic guide to achieving a healthy pregnancy.
There you go, folks. That's what the core of this conversation is about fertility, doing things naturally, but a lot of things cross paths as far as health goes. So as far as we're talking about the chemicals and the disruptors and things like that for fertility, both men and women.
Hmm.
Should people have a great fear of all this that we're talking about? Now they're going to say, I'm not going to touch anything, I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to hire somebody else to do the cleaning for me. It's what can
Yeah,
we really do to be
you have
careful?
you have to keep living. You can't, this is an unfortunate fact of life. And a lot of people don't recognize it because actually our bodies are very efficient at getting rid of chemicals and things. They have pathways through the liver. The same way we metabolize food, we metabolize, substances. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is that some people differ genetically in how well they're able to do that. And now we're able to do the testing to find out. There's certain enzyme pathways that may not work as well, so you don't metabolize certain things as well. And when you know that, you can actually supplement with vitamins that help push the enzymes to work better. That's what vitamins, and they're called cofactors in these biochemical pathways. So I'm really a fan of doing genetic testing in order to see what it is you need specifically, like what supplements should be tailored to your needs. So this is coming. There is a company in the United States called Element that does personalized prenatal vitamins according to what you need. And I think that's the way of the future, personalized medicine, because we're all different. And what we need is different. Treating us all the same for, some people don't metabolize medications the same way. You'll hear people say, oh, I'm very sensitive to most medications. I need low doses. That's because their enzyme pathways are not working that well for genetic reasons. That could be changed with certain cofactors, but they don't know. The tests haven't been done. But I think we should be doing this more.
I'm I'm not a doctor, psychiatrist, counselor, or anything like that, but it all makes sense what you're saying. But then I would have to ask you that almost sounds like the environment can play a factor in this, especially if you're going to go try to cater something specifically to you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying or asking is, I live in the Pacific Northwest. We say, it's cleaner here, a little bit better air, as opposed to maybe being in, I'll just use LA, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more smog. There's more sunlight. There's different things that are happening. All of that exterior environment has an effect on our internal bodies, right? Or it can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The air we breathe, what we come in touch with, there's definitely cleaner areas in the world and less clean when it comes to air pollution. It is we know that traffic and all of that contributes a lot to that. But what people don't know is that actually the internal environment in the house is more polluted than the external environment. And it's polluted by things like when we buy new furniture, drapes, and carpets, they exude chemicals. They're actually quite unhealthy. Um, you and the air in the house, well, it depends on whether they're animals, people who smoke, or whatever, but or cooking, if you're using fuels that are burned, that's also in the air. So your home environment is incredibly important.
Yes, I've heard that before because it's enclosed. It's
Mm-hmm.
much smaller than that outdoor open space. And as far as cooking, we know that if you cook a meat or burn it, there's different carcinogens and things like that. So if there's smoke coming out, like I said, it's polluting your air, which now makes me really think about, and I don't know if enough people really buy a good air filter or filtration system for their home because of the cost. But
That's
that
right.
sounds like it's really important.
Yes. So I say, It's great to have one for your whole house, which I do, but those aren't that great. So I have a
Mm.
separate one where I sleep because that's where I spend, 9.5 hours if I can. If you can have one where you work, that's great as well. These little more portable ones that are more affordable. But that can make a big difference. I was just reading an interesting article actually about wildfires, the effect of wildfires on fertility. And they've done tests looking at, before a wildfire and then after a wildfire, and it makes a significant impact.
Well, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this too. It's the wildfires or anything like that. And when we breathe in things, it's a lot of us, I think, may look at smoke as, oh, it's just smoke, it dissipates. But rather than think there's actually, um, can I say microscopic, but very small particles in all of that. And
Yes,
that's what you breathe in, and then it accumulates. It's not just smoke that disappears.
that's right. No, it's particles. It's particles, and there's chemicals in those particles. So
Mm.
it's again a double whammy, and it doesn't just affect the lungs; it affects everything.
Uh, Everybody, don't be afraid of living. And you kind of alluded to that. You have to live.
Of course, we
And
have to live, and it's not. I mean, it's no life to always look out for everything and make sure everything is perfect. There's no perfection. We just have to, you know, do the big changes that are going to make the most effect. And my contention is, if you do them all, you look at your diet, your exercise, your sleep, your stress reduction, your chemical exposure, what your genetics are, you can change a lot of things.
that's the hard part, is change. And I think people have a difficult time of changing because you may have gotten into a habit, and now people are going to know the things that are affecting them,
Mhm.
but are they going to change? So I'm going to ask you now, as a psychiatrist, you tell people how are they going to change in their minds that this is important for their body, and especially even if you're going, well, I'm not going to have a child, not for 5 or 10 years, they should start doing something now, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The sooner you do it, the healthier you'll be, the longer you'll live. So if you want to be a parent, you'll be a long-lived parent. So do it now. I'm all for Nike. Just do it.
I'm not paying them anything. um, and people might be thinking, okay, that's for younger people, but what about people who are older, in my age? Is it too late to start? Can we start taking, you were talking about vitamins or supplements and things like that, holistic medicines?
It is never too late. It is
Okay,
never, never too late to improve your health.
that's that key word, improve. You're
Mhm.
not going to make it perfect, right?
No
You can do
perfection in this
everything.
world. Don't look for
Yeah.
perfect. You'll be looking a long time.
Yes. um I want to touch on something too, because you said that you had a great interest in this as well, and that's longevity in life. And a lot of what we're talking about, um, is can help you get there.
Mhm.
But are there specific things that you could tell the listeners about longevity and what they need to do aside from sleep? Because we do know that that's very important. Aside from
Very
that,
important. Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard of Peter Attia. He has a podcast called The Drive. He is a doctor who interviews a lot of doctors, and he does a lot of research, and he's very into exercise. He wrote a book called Outlive, and he talked about the various factors in longevity. And his contention is that exercise is probably the most important factor. And
mm,
we know that sarcopenia, which is loss of muscle, is actually a leading cause of death. And what happens, you see people as they get older, they get weaker and weaker, stop using their muscles, where muscles are incredibly important for your whole metabolism and your blood sugar control and everything else. So exercise is incredibly important. And when it comes to fertility, for instance, there's lots of evidence that men who are sedentary and watch a lot of TV, their sperm counts are show it. So And the same thing for women, exercise improves blood flow to the pelvis. So it makes sense that it would improve the organ function and the egg quality. Uh, Again, but if you overexercise, your fertility rates go down. So there's a sweet spot.
And I think with the exercise, um, for older people too, it's very important for strength exercise. And I say this because my mom, she's in her 90s and she can't move around. And I had told her before, you need to move, you need strength. She has a um like an exercise therapist person comes in, and I again, forgive me, I'm not the expert, but I'm going to say this because I said they're not doing anything for you, not really, because all they're doing is picking her leg up and putting it down. I said, Mom, you're not using your muscle. You
Mhm,
need to use your weight. If don't pick up a weight if you can't. Just if you're sitting there every 30 minutes, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Do that 3 times. You got to
mhm,
put some weight, some friction against that to do anything. And when you don't, and you lose that muscle sarcopenia, your balance goes and you fall.
mhm. Yes,
And that's I hear
big
that happen.
issue for
Yeah,
elderly people.
yeah.
Once you fracture your hip, the death rate is like 40%. So, that's a huge problem for the elderly. So, yes, strength, not only cardiovascular, you need strength, you need balance, you need to train all of those things.
Yeah. So we're talking sleep is the obvious thing.
Hmm.
Find that optimal sleep level for you, but probably not less than 7 hours, I'm going to imagine.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Dr. Marina, I sleep 3 to a maximum of 5, and that's it. I've done that
Yeah.
for 50 years. Today, I got 2.5.
I would not be able to function on, well, I mean, I did function on that when I was younger and had to be up all night delivering babies. But that's, I find that very difficult. And do you feel like when you wake up, are you rested?
No, absolutely not.
So why do you sleep so little? You're too busy?
It's a bad habit. It's not mine. Used to be an insomnia thing, I think, and
Mhm,
however you wanted to describe or explain insomnia, it was insomnia. I couldn't help
mhm,
it. Brain is going. Now it's a habit because I have a routine which I need to
mhm,
break. And that's what I was
mhm.
talking about. It's difficult to make people change, even though they know they need to. And I'm one
That's
of
true.
those. And to answer your question again directly about do I feel it? Yes.
Mhm.
But as long as I'm moving, I'm okay. But once I stop or sit in that car seat to drive,
Yes, that's not great. So my husband actually always needed very little sleep. He's a super energetic man, and he would only sleep 4 or 5 hours for years and years. And for us, it was an issue because I was always tired. We'd go out to parties. It was always known that we'd take two cars because I was leaving early and he was leaving late. But now he's older and it's catching up with him and he needs more sleep. It's very clear.
yeah, I for anybody out there that brags about how little sleep that they can go on or has a bad habit like me, I'll say from firsthand experience that it will make a difference in your body and your physique and everything else. Because I could tell my core, everything else is gone to crap.
Mhm.
um, you don't feel as good. You might say, "Oh, I feel all right. I'm energetic," but I think you're putting off an inevitable, which can be heart problems, uh,
Yes.
leads to death, diabetes, all of that
Obesity.
stuff. Obesity,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sleep. If I'm not wrong, can have a huge effect on obesity.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, um, it's I do the and hesitate because I'm just dumbfounded at all of these simple things that I know that most people are 100% aware of, but we just don't do anything. And
Mhm.
now you have your book coming up again about fertility that talks about all of this that we're having a conversation about. It's important. Is there anything else that you could really tell us, help us out as far as the holistic wise? And again, going back to what our conversation is on fertility, both for men and women.
So stress is the other one. It's connected with sleep, but it's been estimated that 90% of doctors' visits are stress related. So we know it's a huge problem. And most people know they are feeling stressed, but they tend to try to forget about it, push it under the carpet, not talk about it, just live with it. Whereas really, I think people need to recognize what is stressing them and think about how best to deal with it. Now, there's obviously stressful situations we can do nothing about and you have to live with, but then you need a way of managing it. And different people do different things. For some people, just getting together with friends is a stress reliever. For other people, it's exercise, which is great because that has benefits as well that are separate from that. Getting a massage. There's so many things you can do. Yoga is a great stress reliever. One thing that I tell my patients, I don't know if you've ever heard of heart math. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Heart math. Okay, go to heartmath.com if you're interested.
Okay.
And I have no affiliation, but I use this on my patients a lot. There's an app that you can buy that you can put on your smartphone, and it's got a little plug that goes on your ear. That measures your heart rate variability, which is actually the balance between your sympathetic and parasympathetic system and how it relates to your heart. And it measures it, and it gives you, it's a feedback. It teaches you how to improve your heart rate variability, which improves your general health and even your fertility through studies, it's shown. Poor heart rate variability is associated with disease and sickness. Good heart rate variability associated with health. And you are able to change it through these meditation-like exercises, breathing-like exercises. They have you watch a screen and watch different things, and they tell you how to breathe. And you practice this, and you can actually improve it. And that is a great stress reliever. I really like that. The app is pretty cheap. It's 100, 150 bucks, but you can use it like 10 minutes a day, and it can really change your whole outlook on things.
What we're just talking about just now, that actually, not only is it good for the health of the eggs and fertility, it'll make it to where the eggs, the sperm is going to, I don't know the medical term, but make it last longer. Because again, right from the very beginning, we talked about where women are now starting to work longer in the workforce.
Right.
And not only about freezing eggs and things like that and getting a healthy egg before you freeze it, or sperm. We sometimes, I think, I don't know the cost, but I think people either associate with the cost being too high. So what specifically can they do to holistically to lengthen the longevity of their eggs or the fertility time?
Yeah. So anything that improves your general health. So getting back to the basics are always the most important. Diet, activity, sleep, stress reduction, reduction of chemicals. All of those things play a role altogether, and they keep you younger. And you won't increase the amount of eggs. A woman is born with a specific amount of eggs, and that's all she's got. What we want to increase is the quality. So if you have, if you're 35 and you only have a certain number of eggs left, but if you have higher quality eggs, which means eggs that are more likely to be fertilized, you're going to improve your fertility.
Okay. I might be dumb and naive, but I did not know that there's a specific count. If it's 1 billion, is 1 billion, that's all you have. And then if it drops down to 500, that's all you have. Unlike sperm, which regenerates.
It's a countless supply. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So women feel cheated a little bit in this way, but if quality is the important factor, I think you need to emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Both eggs and sperm, and for fertility.
Mhm. So
Super
we don't
important.
have a way of measuring egg quality right now. Like sperm quality, you can measure, right? The volume, how many are normal, how fast they move. So those are good measures of sperm quality. Egg quality, there are artificial intelligence methods that can be used in IVF. So when they extract eggs, they actually take photographs of them, and artificial intelligence looks at, the homogeneity of the cytoplasm or how many vacuoles they are, and they can give you a prediction of how likely this egg is to be fertilized. So that's a
Mm,
measure of egg quality. But of course, we can't do that in a natural place where those eggs are hidden in the ovaries. So
yeah.
it's more of a theoretical, let's make these eggs more likely to be fertilized.
Okay, this is going to be a dumb question. So with the eggs, when they die out, or prior to dying out, do the walls get thicker so they're more difficult to penetrate for like sperm? Or is there anything like that that these chemicals that we might be leaching into our body has an effect on the egg that way?
So yeah, there's different ways it can affect the egg. It might be affecting, for instance, the mitochondria in the egg. The mitochondria are the factories that make energy in our bodies. And making eggs and sperm is a highly energy demanding process. So the mitochondria, there's many mitochondria and they work very, very hard. But if you have some sort of exposure to something that affects your mitochondria, it's going to affect your eggs and sperm before it affects anything else in the body. So that's one mechanism. There's many, many mechanisms. But the egg, whether it's a good quality egg or not, generally just survives 24 hours and then degenerates, whereas sperm last about 5 days before they die. So even if you have intercourse before you ovulate, the sperm may still be around when you ovulate and you can get pregnant. But if you have intercourse more than 24 hours after ovulation, you've missed the window. So timing is incredibly important.
Mm, all right, couples out there, timing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and there's these ideas like, oh, a menstrual cycle is 28 days long. You ovulate day 14. That's just an average. I've had couples who are, we have sex the 14th day of every cycle. We're not getting pregnant. Well, if your cycle varies in length, if you have a 24-day cycle and not a 28-day cycle, you're ovulating 4 days earlier. So you have to have sex on day 10. So people don't know these subtle variations, and sometimes just that little bit of knowledge, it changes the whole picture, and they get pregnant.
well, I'm glad that we are having this conversation today because I think a lot of things that you have talked about, and I'm sure a lot of this is in your upcoming book, sounds very important.
Mhm.
Um, it's one of the greatest gifts is having a family. I believe so. You want to have a healthy family, and you
Exactly. Yeah.
want to be able to do it do it healthily, if that's going to be a word. But you want to make sure that everything's is right.
Hmm. Yes,
Uh,
that's a huge motivation. So this is the other area where genetics comes in. There uh, are now genetic tests. Have you heard of nutrigenomics? Have you heard that
yes.
term? Okay, so
Mhm.
it's the interaction of nutrition and how your genetics affects nutrition and vice versa. So there's a couple of functional medicine doctors from Oregon who realized that there's certain variations in your genes that were important for fertility. And they picked what they felt were the 40 most important, and they screened a group of 100 pregnant patients who were Medicare patients. And according to the results of these tests, they uh, um, fixed their supplements, like they optimized their supplementation to fit their genes for the pregnancy. And they measured their outcomes and compared to a group of regular private patients who were getting excellent care. And you would expect that the Medicaid patients, maybe didn't get quite as good care, had more challenges in their background, that they might not do as well. But when they looked at the pregnancy outcomes, there was significantly less gestational diabetes and significantly less pregnancy-induced hypertension in those Medicaid patients who had the genetic testing and supplementation. So
Wow.
we can actually change the outcome of pregnancy with nutrition that's personalized. I think that is huge. I don't know why people don't talk about this more. For me, when I read about this, I said, this is so important. Why are obstetricians not talking about this?
That's almost like a human GMO. Well, right? I mean, in a way, kind of.
Yeah.
We're genetically modifying something to make us
That's right.
better.
Well, this is what epigenetics is. It's how our environment influences our genes. We used to think that your genes are your blueprint. Like if you have it in your genes, that's the way you're going to turn out. But it's not true at all. In fact, environment is more important, how you influence your genes. So,
Mm.
an environment is exercise, nutrition, sleep, air, all those things.
Yes, I've had the opportunity to travel all throughout the states and different countries and things like that. And one of the things I've noticed, at least in the states, is climate and exercise, and then the obesity.
Mm.
It's made a difference. I see that, and it's kind of almost in a way obvious. People who live in a sun belt, who live there, not vacation, they seem to be a little bit more fit as far as the outwardly appearance goes because they're out exercising, as opposed to maybe in the Pacific Northwest where we'll have a lot of drizzle and a lot of rain, or maybe even Vancouver,
Mhm.
BC,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're spending more time indoors. And if you don't go to the gym, you could be trim, but you probably have a lot of visceral fat underlying, maybe internal health conditions that are not as good as somebody that lives in that sun belt.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. And I also think that vitamin D is a big thing, that, that people in the Sun Belt are getting their vitamin D. Here where I live in Ottawa, most people are vitamin D deficient. The thing is, it's not addressed usually. And in fact, our OHIP system doesn't cover vitamin D testing, because when this information came out maybe 10 years ago, that vitamin D is a hormone, not a vitamin, and that it was how important it is, everybody started testing for it. So what the government does is, they'll stop paying for it, which is infuriating. It's
I
one of
guess
the most important preventative medicine things you can do, and they're making you pay extra.
because it's about the dollar. The bottom line is the dollar. Too many people are doing it. It's costing us too much. You're going to pay.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're right. Vitamin D, I've been hearing again over the years, it's become more and more pronounced and more important to make sure that you have the right levels of vitamin D. And is there different types of vitamin D? D3,
D3 is the active form. Yeah. So if you don't take the active form, your body has to break it down to the active form.
Okay. Well, and you can get too much vitamin D from
Yeah,
supplement too,
it
right?
is possible. Yes, it is possible to over supplement. I don't think it's that common, to tell you the truth, but it can happen.
Wow. There's a lot of things I think as far as nutrition and vitamins that we could probably really dig into, because I'm thinking with vitamin D3, I've heard make sure you take zinc, magnesium, and was it K2V7 along with your vitamin
Yeah,
D
K2 can help with the absorption.
absorption.
Vitamin.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's so much. I would love to have you come back to talk about life, longevity, and vitamins, but
Sure.
I think this is really good information. And one last time, if you could remind everyone when your book is coming out and the title of your book and the purpose of this book, because I want them to go home with that in their minds.
So the book hopefully will be coming out in January. This is my first time going through this process, so I don't know if everything's going to be on time. It's called Optimize Your Fertility Naturally, a holistic guide to achieving a healthy pregnancy. I have a wait list for people who are interested on my website, which is drmarinaobgyn.com. That's DrMarina OBGYN.com. marinastraszak.com. And so I also do a weekly blog on fertility issues. You can sign up for that as well.
I would tell and encourage people to sign up for that blog. I went to your website and very good information. Great stuff.
Thank you very much. It's
Yeah,
really been a
thank
pleasure
you.
talking to you.
Yeah, it's we went through some technical difficulties and everything, but I think this worked out just perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to come back another time. Just
Yes,
let me know.
I I think people would get a lot out of you because you are so full of information. And again, you've been an OBGYN for over 30 years, but a lot of this stuff that we talked about today, not just for women, women's health, that's your main thing, but it goes for both sides. And as far as
Absolutely. Hmm.
pregnancy goes, we said it takes two.
Hmm.
So yeah, everyone stay healthy out there and get some sunlight, exercise, and get your minimal 7 hours of sleep.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.